What you know, alibiers. Welcome to another episode of Pretty Lies and Alibis. I'm Gigi. It's Tuesday, April 8th. We just finished up day 2 of the Vallow Daybell trial here in Phoenix, Arizona. It ended with a little bit more of a fiery Vallow Daybell, the one we're used to seeing at the hearings. We'll get into that in just a bit. As you guys know, yesterday we lost one juror. It was a male. And today we lost another juror, a female. So we're already down 2 jurors and we just finished day 2. Clearly, we cannot afford to lose anymore. This trial is just getting started, expected to last weeks. We had another juror bring to the attention of the court that after viewing the body cam footage of Charles Vallow yesterday, it jogged his memory and he had actually seen some of that. I believe he said last year. It wasn't anything he personally looked for. And for now, the judge was okay with him staying on the panel. The other issue that came up today was Lori filed a motion saying the state did not hand everything over from the technology downloads of Charles Vallow's phone. The judge said we may have a hearing about this on Friday. Court is dark on Friday, so that would be something they come in for. But the judge said it's actually more like a discovery request and not a violation. And Lori agreed with that. Back on the stand for cross-exam was Chandler Firefighter Scott Cowden. Lori asked if he could tell her about entering the house and what he saw. The witness saw the patient on the floor to the right of where he walked in. He went over to Charles to do an assessment and an evaluation. His assessment was Charles was unresponsive and not breathing, so he started chest compressions. Lori, did you do that with his shirt on? The witness said he would have lifted it. Lori, you saw 2 bullet holes? The witness says yes. She asked what color shirt Charles had on, and the witness said dark. Your report, there was more blood on the chest area. There was none pooled around the knees. And with the dark shirt, was it hard to see the blood? The witness said he did see the blood on Charles's chest. Lori asked about the 2 holes on the front side of the shirt, and the witness agreed there were. She asked, how do you cut off his shirt? The witness said a colleague would have cut that off, but he told his partner not to cut through where the bullet holes were. Lori asked if you use special scissors to make those cuts, and he said they have shears they use. Lori, you said you were a CPR instructor for 12 years, and the witness said from 2004 to 2016. Lori said you teach people who have not done CPR before and also to recertify them. How many people have you taught? He said it was in the hundreds. Lori asked, you understand how a first-timer would react? You teach them where to place their hands, and do you show them or do you tell them? The witness said it is a video-based system. If you told them over the phone, would it be hard to know where to place your hands? The witness said it would depend on the dispatcher's instructions. Lori, if you didn't have a video, it may be hard for a first-timer to do CPR. If you tell them the middle of the chest, but you couldn't show them, and the witness agrees. Lori, do you think your class would be successful if you had no visuals? There was an objection that was sustained. If someone hadn't done it before, is it possible they wouldn't know where to put their hands? And the witness says yes. Lori says, these days there's no breathing in the mouth, just percussion. The witness said it just depends. She asked, how long do you do CPR before you take a rest? The witness said there are different guidelines, and that's a very situational question. How long did you do CPR before you did the flip over? And the witness said before we rolled him over, he estimated maybe up to a minute. Lori asked if he was counting, and the witness says, I don't know. I was doing compressions and waiting for the team to arrive. Lori asked how many people were there with him, and the witness said there were 4. 3 of them were with the patient. Lori asked if they could switch off doing CPR, and the witness said they can. Lori, do you know how long after the rolling over you started doing compressions again, and for how long? The witness said he did compressions for about another minute. So Lori asked 2 minutes total, and the witness said for that sequence. Lori asked, was there another sequence? And the witness said, we stopped to look at the heart monitor to see if there was any activity, and then he resumed again. Lori asked what were the results of the heart monitor, And the witness said there were no signs of any electrical activity. How far into CPR did you stop to do the heart monitor? The witness said within 2 minutes of making contact with the patient. Lori asked how long to put on the pads, get ready, decide what to do next. The witness said you have to wipe blood off of the chest to be able to put those pads on, or they won't stick. So it takes about 30 seconds or so. And Lori asked if they removed blood from Charles's chest in this case. And the witness said he was doing compressions, but it would have been a team member that would have done that. Did you cut the shirt in the back to see exit wounds? The witness said we cut down the sides to be able to pull the shirt off without disturbing the bullet holes. After the third set of compressions, what did you do? The witness said they would have called it. Lori asks, who calls it? The witness said our captain would do that. And she asked, what time was it called? But the witness doesn't remember. She asked, did you review the 911 call for your testimony? No. What did you review for today? The witness reviewed the incident time of dispatch, the paper documentation, his testimony from Idaho, and also his Chandler Police Department interview. Was anyone asked to take a look at Alex? No. Have you spoken to the media about this case? There was an objection that was sustained. Is it possible a wound to the chest doing compressions can do other damage? The witness said, if the heart isn't beating, it's what you have to do. Lori asks, if a person doesn't know what to do, could they hesitate to push on the bullet wound? There's an objection that's sustained. Lori asked about the gunshot wounds. There was one chest wound, one abdominal wound, and she asked if it's on the right or left side, but the witness would have need to have looked at the documentation. Lori asks, what is the crunch? The witness said when you're doing compressions, you feel the sternum crack. On redirect, does 911 regularly instruct people how to do CPR? And the witness says yes. Did you feel someone did CPR on Charles Vallow before you got there? The witness said, I felt no, they did not. So this testimony, to me, she is trying to dispute the fact that it is the general consensus that Alex Cox did not attempt CPR on Charles. The next witness, Kent Keller, he is retired with the Chandler Fire Department and also a paramedic. When the witness went inside, he thought the house seemed very empty. There was very little in the room other than Charles's body. He saw the baseball bat on Charles's right side near the wall, and also Charles's ball cap that was behind him. He saw a spent round on the floor and also noted Charles was lying on his back. He said Charles was a big guy and he was fit. He had blood that pooled above his sternum. And looking at this, he didn't think CPR had been attempted. There was a lack of what they call blood spread, as well as a lack of blood pooling underneath him. And you do CPR regardless because you don't know how long they've been down, and there's a chance that the patient could still be viable. Charles had what they call skin mottling. It's patchy looking skin that comes from a lack of oxygen to the skin, as well as lividity. That's where the blood starts to pool with gravity. Charles's pupils were fixed. He did see Lori and Tylee outside on scene, and he points Lori out to the jury. He overheard her talking with police and points out someone said something about not getting invited to a pool party because of all the commotion at the house. Lori is up for cross. What is staging? I don't know what that is. He said when there is a violent incident, the fire department doesn't have the right gear, so they will go close to the address to be away from danger, but also close enough to get there quickly once that scene is cleared. Lori asked, do you have something to obtain body temperature to help call a time of death? And the witness said they are not trained for that. Lori, modeling is patchy skin because of lack of oxygen. Does it continue to increase? Was it early or late in the progress of Charles being killed? The witness said, I would say it was progressing, but he can't say how long. Lori, you saw lividity. How long after death? The witness said that Charles had it on the back of his arms. And Lori asked if medication could affect that. The witness does not know. She asked, what was your time of death? And the witness said, I put the time of treatment being ceased, and he does not remember that. She asked, do you know for a fact CPR had not been done before you got there? The witness says, I can't say, but I know we did. On redirect, which do you see first, modeling or lividity? The witness said modeling. Within the first few minutes, do you see modeling or lividity? And the witness said not immediately. Now, I looked this up on Google. Lividity typically starts 30 minutes to 4 hours after death. That would definitely fit in with that time frame that we know 911 wasn't called. What can tell you CPR was given to a patient? The witness said the indentation in the chest, the sternum is cracked and it's loose from the rib cage, and in trauma situations, increased bleeding. The witness said, in his opinion, it's very unlikely CPR was done prior to them arriving. There were some juror questions that were very pointed medically, and it kind of makes me wonder, do we have someone in the medical field on that jury? Any attempt to give meds like ephedrine? Nope, it's not indicated for trauma. Was ACLS protocol followed? Yes. The protocol is if there is a sign of death, then you stop treatment. ACLS, by the way, stands for Advanced Cardiac Life Support. Next juror question, was there a physician patched in? The witness said, no, it's not required. They are trained to be able to handle things on scene. You can do that, but not where a patient has coded. You might patch one in when you're on your way to the hospital to tell the doctor who's waiting what you've done, what you're planning to do to facilitate care so that that doctor can prepare and also know what's been done so far when the patient does get there. The last juror question, are fire department personnel allowed to call a person's death? The witness says yes, the time of death is different though. And the last witness of the day was Detective Daniel Coons. You guys remember, Lori did not want him to testify as a trajectory expert. She was okay with him being the scene agent, but he got up there today. And this is where we saw Lori's frustration start to set in. Detective Coons talks about becoming a shooting reconstruction expert. They take information from the crime scene to reconstruct what happened. He was a detective at the Chandler Police Department July 11th, 2019, and responded to the scene after going to get equipment. When he got there, the scene was frozen, meaning crime scene tape was up, nobody in, nobody out, unless you absolutely had to be there. Other detectives were responding as well, and he was assigned as essentially over the crime scene. His job is to make sure the scene is processed, just really to oversee the integrity of everything being done. Detective Duncan was with him, and first off, they want to take photos to show the scene as it is before anything is moved or manipulated. They show an exhibit, which is kind of like a blueprint. It's a layout of the house. It is not to scale. And there are highlights where key pieces of evidence were found. On a second paper, it has numbers and then it tells the item that's highlighted. They also have measurements on there and tell how far it is from point A to point B. They also did a Faro scan of the house. That is one of those you put on a tripod. It does 360-degree pictures, and it gives a 3D rendering of that crime scene. Very interesting to watch this today. You see Charles laying on the floor on his back. There's a card on the floor near him indicating an item of interest was seen, which tells officers to avoid that area. The state admits over 100 photos and items of evidence, including the baseball bat that Tylee said she held. They brought that into the courtroom today. And for photographs, the standard is to start outside and work your way inside. So they start showing these photos of the front of the house. Lori objects and says they haven't been admitted. So the state says we move to admit. Lori says some of these are cumulative and the judge asked to see them. Ultimately, he says they are from different angles, different distances, and although they are similar, he let them come in. So I'm going to rattle off some of these photos we saw. There was a view of Alex's truck backed in, and then there was another photo at a different angle. We see the very back of Alex's truck, two photos of the front door, a photo looking inside the front door into that main room. You can see Charles's hat in this picture. I've always thought it was far away from his body. Photo of the front entryway, Charles's body seen from the entryway. Close-up of Charles looking from his head down his body. The state points out the area that's past where Charles's feet were in the photo has 2 bedrooms and a bathroom. They show the baseboard strike, a projectile, the bat, a close-up of the bat, and they did look for any visible evidence of biological material or blood, but they saw nothing. We saw close-ups of the bat. It was clean as a whistle. There's a placard on the floor by Charles, and it marked a full metal jacket projectile, and then a close-up of that showing that it was deformed. They show a close-up of Charles's left hand with blood on it. Yesterday, they said he must have grabbed his chest with that first shot, and you can see that in that photo. The detective thought it was interesting the blood was just there. There was no blood on the floor, except for when they moved Charles and there was some underneath his body. They show a close-up of a spent .45 shell casing with that primer denting in, meaning it had been fired. The medical examiner removed Charles's body, and they photographed the blood underneath him. And then they show a photo of a projectile on the floor in proximity of Charles, and that stood out to investigators. He kind of laughs and says they removed that piece of wood with great pain. They had that in the courtroom today. They wanted to establish directionality with this piece of flooring. They show photos of a backpack with water. In Alex's room, 2 mattresses pushed together on the floor. There's an orange bag with a loaded .45 caliber pistol laying beside it. It had a chambered round inside and also a magazine. There was a garbage bag with clothes as well. They show a photo of the gum box, which was inside the orange bag. You see some Huggies wipes in there, and there was also live ammunition in that bag. The way they tell it, Alex got whacked in the head by Charles with the bat, and they point out there were no blood drops in the room where Alex was staying, on the orange bag. Nowhere in that house did they find any blood from Alex's boo-boo. There was blood on the kitchen faucet, but none in the sink. There were no blood trails or no swipes anywhere. As far as the injuries on Charles, a gunshot wound to the lower left abdomen was visible. Later, they found that second gunshot wound near the center of the upper chest. The exit wounds were to the left of the spine and then the left of the shoulder blade. Detective Coons determined Alex's approximate location from the wounds on Charles, based on where the projectile and the casings end up. The firearm would eject those casings to the right, and it would have struck the wall, then bounced back towards the west wall. One projectile was embedded in the baseboard across the room. For the second shot, it was consistent with Alex being at Charles's feet, close enough so the casings could bounce off the wall and end up on that west wall. Detective Coons thinks Charles was on the ground when he was shot in the abdomen. If you remember, in Alex's police interview the day of the shooting, he said he did not shoot Charles while he was down. However, the forensic evidence says otherwise. At autopsy, Detective Coons asked the medical examiner to measure the bullet strike to the exit wounds, and Detective Coons also used those trajectory rods to determine if Charles was on his back when he was shot in the abdomen, and all of that data supported his theory that Charles was on the ground. The trajectory rods alone supported that. There was no stippling. The entry was the lower left abdomen that exited through the left shoulder area, causing that defect in the floor, that casing hitting the wall, and also there was a lack of stippling. So this was from a little bit of a distance. There's no way for the impact on the floor and the exit wound to indicate anything but Charles being on his back. He was on the scene for over 7 hours. Lori is up for cross. This is the first time. It's only been 2 days, so maybe I'm getting ahead of myself, but she got a little bit louder than she has with anybody else so far. Did you work for someone else before Chandler? The witness says the Arizona Department of Corrections in the U.S. Army. Did you work for the Gilbert PD? No. When did you write that report from that day? He said close to that date. When you arrived, who was already there? Patrol officers, the fire department, Alex Cox. Did you go directly in the house? No, we were debriefed and then we came up with an investigative plan. Who was there? The witness said Detective Moffat, Detective Duncan, possibly Inklin, and he said, I did not take a roll call. The witness requested a search warrant for the residence, and Lori says, then what? The witness said, we waited. How long did it take? They got that authorization for a search warrant between 11:30 and 11:45 a.m. Lori says you can't enter until the search warrant is issued. The witness says that's correct. Once the scene has been secured, then a crime scene tech and Detective Duncan came in for initial entry. What did you do after that? Took photos, got information for our diagram. What did you do after that? I know you were searching for blood in all the rooms. When did you do that? The witness said after all the photos are finished in an area, then they can do their walkthrough. How long after that did you set up the tripod? He said after the room was photographed. So they take regular photographs and then the fancy Faro scanner, which blew my mind. I need to find a YouTube video and post that for you guys. It's very interesting if you haven't seen one. Lori, you were going room by room. Did you split up? The witness said they divided and conquered to expedite, but you have to wait for all the photographs to be taken. Lori asked, how long did it take? He said he didn't look at his watch, but it started about noon. How long did it take to go through the whole house? The witness said, I don't know how long it took because each scene is different. I rarely look to see how long I'm taking. I want to do a good job. I don't care how long it takes. Who picked up the evidence? The witness said crime scene techs, but they can also help if needed. Lori says once you're done with the evidence, logging it, what else did you do that day? The witness said it took a long time to get to the point to where they had all that done. When did you leave? Between 4 and 4:30. The witness said they wait for them to get the body out and then they get to work. Lori asked, did you search the backyard and who? The witness says it was another detective, maybe an officer. They would look for any blood evidence or anything based on what they know took place in the house and anything relevant to that. Lori asked the witness, how is a .45 semi-automatic weapon different from a revolver? The witness says revolvers are kind of like Western movies, and semi-automatic, that's what police carry these days. Lori asks, when you're shooting between the two types of firearms, what's the difference? And the witness says, the shooter. You're taught to shoot center mass. If you're being attacked, should you aim for center mass? The witness says yes, because you have the highest probability of hitting someone. Lori says, if someone's a novice, what would you teach them? The witness says to shoot until that threat goes away. Look, I'm going to tell y'all right now, Detective Coons was throwing a little bit of snark in there very subtly. I picked up on it. Lori asked, with the .45, when the shells are ejected, where do they go? And the witness says out and away. Lori asked to the left or right. The witness said he personally has not test fired Alex's weapon, but usually to the right. Lori asked if it could go to the left. The witness said no, because that's not where the ejection port is. That dictates where that casing is going to go. Lori asked if there are left-handed guns, and the witness says yes. Were you there when Alex did the walkthrough? Yes. Did he show you where he was standing? Objection sustained. Lori says, I'm not asking for the truth of the matter. He was standing in that place. Did you see Alex standing in that room? The witness said in the vicinity. Is that in the hallway or the main room? Objection sustained. Where did you observe Mr. Cox standing? The judge stops Lori and says that's leading. She says, I'm trying to understand. So what the witness observed isn't relevant. This is where Lori started to let that frustration come out. And you could see the jury react to it because up to this point, she has had a very soft-spoken voice. Lori, where would you place the shooter? The witness said in the hallway entry area. What direction would you have him facing? The witness said for what shot? Lori said the first. He said easterly. Lori, what did you think as far as him moving? The witness said, I didn't say he moved. Where do you think he was standing? Witness said he doesn't know. Lori said the first shot casing bounced off the wall and landed to the left. The second shot, same thing happened. How far apart were the casings? The witness said a few feet. Lori says, if Alex was standing in the same place, would they be a few feet apart? The witness said it would depend on how the gun was being held, the angle it was being held. Could the shooter have moved a little? But really, he would have been in the same general vicinity. Lori says, you said he didn't move. The witness said no, but the same general area. Perhaps could have slid the body sideways, took a couple of steps. Lori, let's talk about stippling. You said the first shot had stippling. The witness, nope, there was none on either shot. Lori asked if that's in the medical examiner report, and the witness says he believes so, that there was no stippling. Lori asks if she can have a minute, and after a pause, she asks, the medical examiner didn't say anything about stippling when you were observing the autopsy? The witness said, nope, we would have seen it. Lori, can you describe stippling? The witness says is particles that follow the projectiles, is partially burned powder or burned powder. And you have to be extremely close for that to be able to embed in skin or clothing. Lori, on the 45, how close would you have to be to get stippling? The witness said you would have to test fire the gun. It's different with different types of guns. Lori asked, would you be surprised if the medical examiner said 2 to 4 feet? The witness said it's possible. He said he wouldn't hang his hat on that. And that was the end of the day. So we're starting to see a little bit of frustration with Lori. Those series of objections, I think there were maybe 6 or 7 in a row. And that really is what got her frustrated. But Detective Coons will be back on the stand tomorrow. I'll be live streaming all day, so come watch with the alibiers. At lunch, we'll be doing a live Q&A. So join us for that. And I hope you guys have a good rest of your evening. We will see you soon.